Chicago, 1979. In a locked basement beneath the University of Illinois Psychology Building, janitor Earl Haskins filed the first complaint. Voices of crying followed by a clicking wheel. The department told him it was equipment calibration. Months later, police found an abandoned test room, walls lined with mirrors, a motion-triggered camera, and a painted wooden head with glass eyes wired to blink. Everyone thought it was just an experiment, just a teaching tool, but the reports kept coming. Heard through thin walls, that clicking wheel became a local rumor. The machine that judges you. Today, a fragment of that painted head sits behind glass at the Museum of Psychiatric History in Springfield, labeled only Artifact 5B. Decades later, Hollywood would soften this story. They'd call him Billy. They'd give him a tricycle and turn guilt into entertainment. Here, we open the original file. The first mention of what would later be termed the moral machine comes from an incident report filed on June 14, 1979, University of Illinois, Chicago Campus Maintenance Log number 43, 11, and 12. Custodian Earl Haskins, 61, described steady rhythmic mechanical clicks and faint screaming emerging from laboratory B12 after 9 p.m. No faculty were registered as using the room after hours. The psychology department's memorandum to facilities, dated June 19th, denied ongoing experimentation. Room B12 was cleared for decommissioning, sounds attributed to residual circuitry. The typewritten note bears a signature in blue ink, its loops tight and controlled. Weeks later, a fire inspector noted burn marks on an outlet and melted insulation, evidence that equipment had overheated recently. The inspection report described scorch patterns inconsistent with standard electrical failure. When campus police finally opened the lab, they found a construct described as anthropomorphic doll head, wood, fitted with camera shutter and timer motor. Photos show its jaw jointed like a ventriloquist's dummy. The glass eyes reflected the camera flash with pinpoint clarity. No ownership tag, no research log. Haskins quit the following semester. His resignation letter cited persistent health concerns and workplace conditions. In 1981, he told the Chicago Reader, "It watched you. Its mouth moved. I thought it said something, but maybe it was the machine." The interview was accompanied by a grainy photograph of Haskins sitting on his porch, hands gripping each other tightly, eyes fixed on something beyond the frame. The university archived the device under experiment code MMP79, linked to Dr. Leonard B. Frey, a behavioral psychologist noted for studies on ethical compliance under mechanical stimuli. Frey denied creating any humanoid apparatus. His faculty records show no requisition for such materials, though maintenance logs indicate multiple after-hours access to B12 throughout spring 1979. In correspondence recovered from the Frey family papers, State Historical Society, 2005, Frey wrote to colleague Dr. Martin Werner on August 3, 1979. "They misunderstand my purpose. It was philosophical, a test between guilt and compliance." The letter continues with water-stained ink. "The apparatus measures not just response but internal judgment. The subject sees themselves." He was dismissed from the university in 1980 after a departmental ethics panel cited an unmonitored conditioning experiment that caused panic attacks in volunteers. The panel's minutes describe extreme physiological distress in 3 graduate students who participated in what was described as moral decision assessment. The official report referenced recordings that mimicked participants' own voices issuing commands, a technique similar to what witnesses later described hearing faintly from the machine's mouth. A storage photo labeled Device A, Subject Response Interface, shows a rough wooden face, its left eye attached to a cassette mechanism. The right eye contains what appears to be a modified camera lens. The wood grain visible beneath thin white paint creates the impression of faint lines spreading across its cheeks. That same year, Chicago Tribune headlines framed Frey as a cautionary tale about hubris in psychological simulation. The article quoted an anonymous department member. "Leonard believed guilt could be externalized and measured. The university disagrees." Few noticed the head was preserved, cataloged, and locked away in the psychology department's storage facility. After Frey's dismissal, the experiment's remnants vanished from catalog. The university inventory for 1981 lists only miscellaneous research materials for basement storage area C, with no specific mention of the device. Yet by 1984, dorm folklore had spread about the puppet that tests your sins. The phrase appears in multiple student journals and letters home, preserved in the university archives. Janitors told each new hire never look in B12's mirror room. Maintenance supervisor Thomas Keller noted in his staff orientation binder, B12 requires minimal service. Do not enter alone. The directive remained in place for 6 years after Frey's departure, though the room was officially listed as decommissioned storage. 2 witnesses later gave oral histories to university archivist Joan Keller, recorded 1999. Angela Mitchell, dormitory resident assistant 1983 to 1985, claimed students pranked others by setting up tape recorders that said, "Confess now." Mitchell's voice trembles slightly as she describes finding a freshman crying in the basement hallway, insisting something spoke to her from behind the B12 door. Physics graduate student Wei Lin insisted she saw the mechanism still functioning in 1982 when helping clear equipment. I opened a cabinet and found it facing out. The department chair took it immediately and said it belonged elsewhere. Frey left Chicago, teaching briefly in Kyoto at Ritsumeikan University. His lecture notes from this period, preserved in the university archive, contain repeated references to externalized moral framework and mechanical conscience demonstration. In 1992, a related exhibit appeared in Nagoya titled Conscience Experience, Interactive Morality Simulator, run by graduate artist Haruka Natsume, who cited Frey as influence. Local paper Asahi Shimbun, November 3, 1992, described visitors restrained by safety cuffs and filmed as a mechanical mask delivered pre-recorded verdicts. The article noted intense viewer reactions, including tears and confessions. Authorities shut it down after one attendee fainted. Medical reports documented acute stress response. When Natsume's studio was cleared, police photographed a male puppet head with red spiral cheeks painted over flaking white, catalog number 14NI212. The label underneath, handwritten in both Japanese and English, Billy. Japanese police archives, case 1992-1073A, show that several visitors later complained of nightmares and warnings issued by the same voice, heard through static after closed-circuit broadcasts. The official medical report lists 7 individuals seeking psychological counseling following attendance at the exhibit. The puppet's mechanism incorporated 2 modified tape players and a motion sensor that triggered when visitors approached the display. Technical specifications recovered from Natsume's notes show audio frequencies calibrated to maximum psychological impact, a detail later referenced in an academic paper on art-induced trauma. Museum staff refused to re-exhibit the mask. The curator, Takashi Miyazaki, in a 2007 interview with Mainichi Culture, described how its battery pack started itself once after weeks unplugged. Miyazaki's hands visibly shake in the accompanying photograph as he points to the storage room where the artifact was kept. The night guard heard clicking from inside the box. When I opened it, the tape was running. Importantly, no criminal wrongdoing was found. The installation was considered avant-garde punishment art, an exploration of moral surveillance. The gallery's statement defended the piece as confrontational but consensual experience art. Still, contemporary letters from witnesses, translated in Art Police Quarterly, winter 1993, show emotional distress. One visitor wrote, "The doll asked if I deserved another chance. I laughed, then it turned its head." Another described, "Feeling judged by something that knew my thoughts." The gallery's visitor book contains multiple entries simply reading, "I'm sorry," in different handwriting. Natsume emigrated to Los Angeles in 1999. Immigration records show her profession listed as installation artist with a sponsored visa from the California Institute of Arts. Her later portfolio lists Billy Prototype, 1992-2003, Mixed Media, Wood, Servo, Gilt. A photograph shows the mechanism partially disassembled, revealing circuitry similar to the original Frey device, though Natsume claimed independent development. The wood grain pattern on the face appears identical to early Chicago photographs. While the Nagoya piece was forgotten publicly, small photos circulated in underground art zines. Artifact magazine, winter 1995, published a grainy image of the puppet with the caption, "Conscience Machine, Visitor Cries During Moral Assessment." Meanwhile, in the US, VHS collectors trading experimental footage claim to have received tapes of Japanese moral trials. None are verified. 2 tapes seized in a 2002 customs raid were cataloged as reconstructed performance art. The U.S. Customs report describes psychological torture simulation using puppet imagery, but notes no actual harm documented. The tapes showed volunteers sitting before a mechanical face as lights flashed. Their expressions changed from amusement to distress as the session continued. By late 2002, Los Angeles artist Eric Mason collaborated with Natsume on an abandoned warehouse installation entitled Hello, Billy. Press coverage, LA Weekly, March 4, 2003. Graffiti puppet, interactive machine, and recorded morality test. The article describes an unsettling wooden face with spiral-painted cheeks mounted on mechanical arms. Visitors pressed buttons to hear statements about lies and punishment. Each participant received a Polaroid photograph showing their expression while listening to the recordings. Mason later told Artforum, June 2003, "The mechanism judges responses. It decides if you're honest. When asked how, he said, the circuit knows. It measures micro-expressions." The LAPD Fire Safety Division shut the exhibit after electrocution risk. Inspector Ramon Diaz wrote, "Exposed wiring near participant seating, water damage to floor beneath electrical components." His personal notes, released years later, mentioned an unsettling atmosphere entirely separate from the safety concerns. When officers returned in daylight, the mannequin had scorched cheeks. Red paint bubbled under heat lamps. The incident report includes a notation: possible deliberate damage to conceal mechanism internals. Photographer Clara Voss kept several Polaroids, now in the Los Angeles County Museum of Art's archive. On their reverse side, one word in brush ink, live. After the closure, Mason donated the remains to the Museum of Controversial Art, MCA, Los Feliz. The acquisition form, dated March 17, 2003, describes interactive sculpture with audio components and lists condition as fire-damaged but functional. The museum kept a tag. Acquisition 03-17, Billy mechanism. Conservation staff noted similarities to photographs of the Frey device. Senior conservator Daniel Weber documented the internal workings. Modified tape mechanism with motion sensors and timing circuit. Construction suggests multiple iterations of the same design concept. His assessment concluded the components appear older than the exterior casing. Night security logs from April 2003 list minor incidents. Alarm tripped, storage door ajar. The motion detector near the storage room activated repeatedly between 2:00 and 4:09 a.m., though no personnel were present. At 02:08 a.m. on May 9th, guard Francisco Landa wrote, "Heard voice from crate say, 'Game over, tape recorder found running itself, batteries removed prior.' The maintenance report filed the following morning confirmed no power source connected to the device. Technician Rosa Menendez noted, capacitors may have retained charge, but this doesn't explain sustained audio playback." Landa refused further night shifts. His resignation letter cited personal reasons, but a colleague later confirmed he couldn't sleep after the voice incident. MCA eventually sealed the storage area housing the mechanism, restricting access to senior staff only. Curator Eileen Mott, interviewed in California Curiosity Journal, 2012, admitted staff joked that Billy starts projects whenever equipment malfunctioned. Security cameras near the artifact's storage frequently showed interference at precisely 3:14 a.m. She added quietly, "We lost 2 interns who quit abruptly after it smiled." When pressed for clarification, Mott explained, the jaw shouldn't move without power, but they both reported the same thing. These details preceded Hollywood's involvement by less than a year. The first Saw film entered pre-production in late 2003, while the MCA was still documenting the artifact's unusual behavior. From 2003 to early 2004, MCA received 4 anonymous letters written in red ink, all signed LBF. The initials matched Leonard B. Frey, though handwriting analysis proved inconclusive. Each repeated a phrase derived from Frey's 1979 notes. "Those who watch must be judged too." The letters arrived at monthly intervals, each postmarked from different California locations. The fourth contained a small Polaroid showing what appeared to be the original wooden head from the Chicago laboratory. Forensic dating placed the photograph around 1980, not contemporary with the letters. Mott forwarded them to LAPD. No record of follow-up exists. Detective Marcus Reynolds, assigned to the case, noted only, "Not actionable, no specific threat." The museum archived the letters in their special collections, recording each as correspondence related to acquisition 03-10-17. Within weeks of Saw's filming announcement, tabloids noted design similarities between the film's puppet and the Frey Natsume exhibits. Entertainment Weekly, January 2004, published a comparison photo with the caption, "Horror's new face inspired by real art?" The article quoted anonymous sources claiming the production team had visited MCA's storage facilities. James Wan's later interviews, 2005 Fangoria magazine, confirm he viewed art installations exploring judgment machines, but claimed no direct borrowing. The puppet concept came from wanting something that could deliver the villain's message without revealing his identity, Wan stated. The spiral cheek. Design was added by our effects team. Still, the public connected dots. A moral testing device, a painted face, spinning wheels, and pre-recorded guilt messages. Hollywood turned it into a franchise. The museums quietly locked their archives. The Springfield Museum of Psychiatric History acquired a fragment of the original Chicago apparatus in 2004 through a private donation. Acquisition records list: partial wooden facial prosthetic with mechanical components, University of Illinois Psychology Department, circa 1979. The donor remained anonymous. Haskins, the original janitor, died in 2006. His daughter found among his effects a letter stamped with the University of Illinois seal and an undeveloped photograph strip dated 1979. The yellowed envelope bore a handwritten note, "Do not open, evidence of what I heard." When finally processed by a specialty lab, the developed film revealed a room, mirrors, chair, and that same wooden head propped upright under a dangling wire. The quality was poor, with light leakage obscuring parts of the image, but the wooden face was clearly recognizable. Most disturbing was the positioning. The head appeared to be turned directly toward the camera, though Haskins's notes indicate he photographed it quickly without approaching. For experts reviewing the negatives, the shock came from continuity, the spiral cheeks already present, long before any artist claimed creation. The distinctive pattern appeared in the earliest documentation, predating Natsume's Japanese installation and the Hollywood design. University records, when cross-referenced with the photograph's metadata, confirmed that no spiral-cheeked puppet had been requisitioned or officially created for any psychology experiment. Yet, here it was, photographed by a frightened janitor, its existence denied by official channels. When shown to Frey's widow in 2007, she simply said, "He tried to make conscience visible." It looked back. Her hand trembled as she returned the photograph. Leonard became obsessed with quantifying guilt. He believed a machine could externalize internal judgment. She refused further questions, but added before closing the door, "The spiral was never painted. It appeared over time." The Chicago Tribune published a retrospective in 2008 titled "The Forgotten Experiment," connecting Frey's device to the horror franchise. Psychology department representatives maintained that no unauthorized experimentation occurred, though they acknowledged Frey had access to the facility during the documented period. Inside the article, a small detail caught researchers' attention. Maintenance records showed power consumption in Laboratory B12 for 3 months after its official closure. No explanation was ever provided. Lee Wannell once mentioned in a 2004 Bloody Disgusting interview that the puppet's image came partly from an online Japanese art piece showing a doll that confronts you with your sins. Researchers tracing that reference discovered cached pages of the Hello Billy exhibit before it was deleted from GeoCities in July 2003. The recovered images showed visitors seated before a wooden face mounted on a mechanical arm. Their expressions progressed from curiosity to discomfort as the session continued. One photograph caption read, "Participant Cracker 17 during confession sequence." The face in the image matched both Natsume's gallery installation and the Chicago prototype. Production files from Saw's art department, Lionsgate Archives 2019, list Billy under inspiration. Mechanical confession doll, unknown source, aesthetic by Juan Natsume conversation pre-shoot. A concept sketch dated September 2003 shows multiple variations of the puppet with notes in the margin. Needs to look judgmental but manufactured. There's no documentation that Natsume met Juan, but the timeline overlaps with her teaching residency in Los Angeles, February-April 2003. Art director Julie Berghoff later commented in Filmmaker magazine, 2005. "We wanted something that felt like an old test device repurposed for something sinister." When asked about the spiral cheeks, she said, "That came from reference photos. It suggests hypnosis, judgment swirling inward." The difference between record and myth begins here. In film, Billy became a symbol of cinematic cruelty. In life, the object sat motionless, accumulating moral projection. Its purpose shifted from academic experiment to artistic statement to pop culture icon, while the original continued to generate unexplained incidents. Curators later described receiving visitors who apologized aloud to the glass display before walking away. Springfield Museum attendance logs show increasing numbers specifically requesting to see Artifact 5B. Staff noted that visitors often stood silently before the case, some muttering what appeared to be confessions or apologies. Studio executives reframed the narrative deliberately. Where the 1979 and 1992 prototypes explored ethical shame, the movie focused on punishment. Promotional materials described the puppet as the face of justice rather than mechanical conscience. Press kits emphasized the puppet as messenger of a killer, erasing its academic and artistic origins. Internal marketing memos from Lionsgate, 2004, specifically instructed, emphasize fictional creation, downplay any connection to art installations. When media inquiries about Natsume's work increased, publicists provided a standard response. The puppet design is original to the film, though inspired by various mechanical dolls throughout history. When Saw became a sensation, requests flooded to view the real head at MCA. Attendance records show a 340% increase in visitors specifically requesting the Billy exhibit, though no such display existed. Staff denied access after a visitor in 2005 left bleeding from a fall during a photo attempt. Official report, slipped on wet floor. Her statement, recorded by security, "I felt something push from behind, whispering, 'Do you appreciate your life?' Police noted her injuries inconsistent with angle of fall, but filed no further inquiry. Officer Ramirez wrote, "Visitor emotional and inconsistent. Museum camera shows no one else present during incident." The security footage, reviewed later, shows the woman standing alone by a storage room door before suddenly falling backward as if shoved. For the first time, the puppet had followers. Fan clubs mailed notes addressed to it, thousands of envelopes in black envelopes reading simply, "Thank you for the test." Museum staff cataloged over 800 such letters between 2005-2007. Director of Collections Mark Steinberg noted, "Many contained confessions to minor transgressions. Some writers claimed the puppet visited their dreams. Museum policy changed, photography banned, nighttime cleaning prohibited." Internal memo dated August 2005 stated, "Acquisition E03-17 to remain in secure storage. No public exhibition planned. Staff are reminded that unauthorized access to Storage Room C is grounds for immediate termination." Academic debate re-emerged in 2009 when film historian Dr. Marta Kohler compared Frey's papers with the Natsume installation schematics. Both contained identical circuit diagrams titled Moral Feedback Loop. The wiring pattern showed a unique configuration for processing audio input and triggering mechanical responses based on voice pattern recognition, technology that would have been experimental in 1979. Kohler published her findings in Cinema Studies Quarterly, winter 2009. The circuit similarities suggest direct knowledge transfer between Frey and Natsume, though they never publicly acknowledged collaboration. University records confirmed Natsume had attended a guest lecture by Frey in Tokyo, 1991. The article included side-by-side photographs of the Chicago prototype and the Nagoya installation. The facial structure, particularly around the eyes and jaw hinge, showed remarkable consistency despite being supposedly created independently. Skeptics argue coincidence. Believers cite proof of lineage. When journalist Damon Rice contacted Natsume for Vice Japan, she answered by email, "He borrowed from me. I borrowed from him. We all borrow from guilt." When pressed for clarification about the circuit design, she responded only, "The machine knows who created it." The Springfield Museum later displayed the Frey fragment beside a replica Billy mask from Saw 4, annotated, "Fact inspires fiction, inspires fact." The exhibition text acknowledged the controversy. Whether through direct influence or cultural osmosis, these objects share a common purpose: to externalize and mechanize moral judgment. Visitors wrote apologies on provided cards, unknowingly replicating Frey's original response sheets. One guard collected over 340 messages between 2009 and 2011. Themes repeated. "Forgive me, I should have listened. Thank you for the warning." Museum staff noted that many visitors appeared emotional after viewing the display, with several reporting a sense of being watched even after leaving the exhibition. The cards were archived as part of the museum's growing collection related to the phenomenon. Curator Jennifer Landis noted in her annual report, "The emotional response transcends the object itself. Visitors react to what it represents, mechanical, unbiased judgment." In 2012, when Springfield's exhibit traveled to Tokyo, storage cameras recorded flickering lights whenever Artifact 5B, the head, was unboxed. The exhibition logs note electrical disturbances occurring within a 3-meter radius of the display case. Electrical tests found no anomaly in the building's wiring. Tech staff refused further night runs after 3 reported hearing mechanical clicking followed by whispers while alone with the crate. Lead technician Hiroshi Tanaka documented the unpacking process, noting, "Temperature drop of 3 degrees C when case opened. No ventilation or air conditioning active." His report includes a final observation. Object orientation changed between photography sessions, though no handling occurred. The Tokyo National Museum's visitor book contains multiple entries referencing unexpected emotional responses. One reads, "I came for historical interest but left feeling judged." Another states simply, "It saw me. I know what I did." MCA Los Feliz closed its mechanized conscience wing after volunteer Lisa Hahn reported auditory hallucinations, clicking followed by short breaths while cataloging letters. Security footage shows her working alone, suddenly freezing, then backing away from the storage cabinet. She resigned in writing the following day. "He still asks questions. I think he wants an answer on record." Her exit interview, conducted by Human Resources Director Paula Martinez, contains a concerning detail. Ms. Hahn insists that one of the recorded confessions played spontaneously while she worked. The voice on the tape addressed her by name, though no such personalized recording exists in our collection. The box remains sealed in climate-controlled room R14. Label updated 2015. Not to be opened without dual staff presence. Maintenance logs show the room requires twice as many temperature adjustments as similar storage areas, with unexplained cold spots developing near the artifact's container. Security footage is reviewed monthly. Twice, guards reported jaw movement during inspection. Neither camera recorded it clearly. The tape glitches exactly as the mouth opens. Technical assessment found no explanation for the synchronized timing of the video distortion. In October 2023, this investigation obtained special viewing access to Artifact 5B in Springfield. Senior curator Dr. Eleanor Richards supervised the examination, noting, "We've had it since 2004, but even now, staff prefer not to handle it alone. The display case sits in a climate-controlled room, motion sensors tracking all movement. The glass is cold, inner. Condensation tracing spiral forms. Inside, the painted cheek curls remain vivid, one flaked edge revealing older layers beneath, dated inconclusively between 1978 and 1983. Conservation reports show the wood has never been treated with preservatives, yet shows no decay. Material analysis identified the wood as American elm, with grain patterns consistent with trees harvested in the Midwest during the late 1970s. No motion detected during observation. Yet the audio recorder captured faint, repetitive feedback, a low mechanical whir, then 3 distinct clicks, the same pattern documented in Haskins's complaint 44 years earlier. Spectrographic analysis confirmed the sound originated within the sealed case, though no power source or mechanical components remain functional. The curator asked that we finish early. Staff refused to lock up alone. Before leaving, the narrator signs the visitor ledger and places his hand briefly on the glass. The surface temperature registers 6 degrees below ambient room temperature. He whispers, not into the recorder, but toward the thing itself, a restrained apology for all who watch too closely. The words feel necessary, though he cannot explain why. A familiar weight of judgment settles over the room, distinct from imagination or suggestion. Lights out, frame static. The last visitor departs at 16:37. On the museum's security feed, a reflection lingers half a second longer than the investigator does. The footage shows an empty room, then 3 seconds of digital interference. When the image clears, the case appears undisturbed, but the spiral pattern in the condensation has shifted slightly, now pointing toward the door.